Hello viewers, this is Manas welcoming you to the series You the Oracle Expert, your one-stop shop to learn and practice Oracle database administration and Unix with hands-on experiments using Oracle VirtualBox virtual machines. Build your knowledge base, confidence, and make your way to be an expert Oracle DBA. Viewers, this is the second part of the topic on creating a database environment health report using the data from OEM 13C repository, OEM BI Publisher Report, and the Microsoft Power BI. In the previous tutorial, or in the part 1 of this topic, we created the SQL statement that we are going to use to extract the data from OEM repository database. If you have not watched that video, I suggest you watch that first to get a better hold on today's tutorial. I have also mentioned the link to the first part of the tutorial in the description of this video below. In today's tutorial, we are going to create the report using BI Publisher Report that comes free with OEM 13C. Here is a quick recap and the overview of the SQL statement that we developed in the last tutorial. Along with the OEM target name and the host name, this SQL statement gives us a lot of information to determine the health of the database environment. It includes the CPU max and average utilization percentage, swap max and average utilization percentage, IOPS max and average utilization percentage. These three statistics are related to the database host. Then the tablespace max percentage utilization, the usage level of the tablespaces, that is whether it's in the warning or critical level of utilization or it's below warning level. The data file system max percentage utilization, the archive file system or the fast recovery area utilization percentage, the apply lag in seconds and the transport lag in seconds for the standby databases, and the top DB wait event along with the wait class. Now before I go ahead and create the report, let me give you a quick background of the OEM BI Publisher Report. BI Publisher Report that comes free with OEM 13C is a easy to learn and simple tool to create and distribute database related reports. You don't need a separate license to use this tool as long as you are using it with OEM and the repository database. BI Publisher Report is easy to use and configure, and it is replacing the Information Publisher Report that used to come with the older versions of OEM. I have a separate video on how to configure and access this tool, and the link to that video is given in the description of this video below. So without spending more time in introduction, let's start creating the report. Go to the OEM. I used the sysadmin user to log in, and go to Enterprise, Reports, BI Publisher Reports. In the next page, at the top left corner, you'll be able to see the link to the BI Publisher Report tool. Click on this BI Publisher Report and it will open a new window. So I'm using the sysadmin user to log in and create report in this tool. You can use any administrative user to log in and use that user to create your reports. Next, we are going to create a connection to the database from where we will extract the data to be displayed in the report using the SQL statement that we developed. To create the connection, go to Administration, then go to JDBC connection. In my case, I have already created this data source with the name catdb. Just for demonstration purpose, I will show you again how I created this. And here, you need to click on this Add Data Source. And here you have to specify a name of the data source, and the driver type will be same as database version. And it is going to be a JDBC driver, which will be used to make the connection. And the connection string, here you have to specify the name of the host, the port, and the SID. So in my case, it will be my host name, the port is 1521, and the SID is also catdb. I'll put system user to make the connection to the database, and I will test the connection. And you see that the connection established successfully. Next, all you need to do is to apply these changes so that this data source is created. I will cancel this because the same data source is already created. So this is the data source that I just created, catdb. Now once the data source is created, the next thing to do is to create a data model. To create a data model, go to this new menu, then click on data model. In this window, click on this plus icon, then select the SQL query option. And in the name box, we'll type in DB environment health. This is the name of the dataset. And the data source will be selected from this list because we have only 2 data sources. I'll select the one that we just created with the name catdb. And type of the SQL statement will be standard SQL. And in this box, we have to specify the SQL query that is going to extract the data. And we'll simply copy it from the Toad window where we develop the SQL statement. But BI Publisher Report accepts the SQL queries that starts with a select keyword. In our case, our select statement doesn't start with a select keyword because we are using subquery factoring to simplify development of the SQL, and it starts with a with clause. So what we have to do, we have to use this query as a subquery that will supply the data to a parent query. So we'll simply put a select star from, and within bracket we will put the query that we developed earlier, and we'll close the bracket here. So we are simply putting the query that we developed earlier inside the brackets and using it as a subquery to the main query, which starts with a select keyword. And we'll run it just to test it for one last time, and we got the output. Now we'll copy this query and take it to our BI Publisher Report window. And now we'll paste the query that we copied from the Toad window in the SQL query box and click on this OK button. It will take a few moments to process the query. And the next step is to click on this data menu here and click on this view button to view a few sample records returned by the query. And this data is displayed in a tree view. If you want, you can display it in a table view by simply clicking on this table view link. And the data is being displayed in a tabular form. There are 2 more tabs that is giving us the structure and the code for this data model. And this structure is nothing but the fields that are selected and the XML tag name and also the display name of the fields. If you want, you can change it here. And this code tab is to display the XML code for the data model. And whatever data is displayed here, we need to save it as a sample data so that this can be used to create and format our report. So click on this Save as Sample Data button, click OK, and save the data model here. So you can save your data models and reports on specific folders there, or you can create your own. I am using the default folder named My Folder. We will save the data model with a name, say DM, that stands for data model for DB environment health, and we click on the save button. Now that our data model with the name DB environment health is ready, we are going to create a report using this data model. So click on this create report button, and in the create report options, the use data model option is already selected, and also it is selecting the data model that we just created with the name DB environment health with an extension XDM. And how do you want to create your report? In this option, we'll select the use report editor option here. We'll not select the guide me option, and click on the finish button. Here we'll supply a name for the report, say DB ENV health report. Click on save. Here in the create layout option, we are going to use the most basic one because we don't need any tables or charts in our report. It's going to be a simple tabular report. So let's select the blank portrait option here. And in this canvas, we'll first place one report header. So click on this text item, just drag and drop. Then put a report header as DB environment health report. Select the text, make it bold, and the size as 16 point, and center align. And our report is going to be a wide one because there will be a lot of information displayed, so we need to make it a little bigger by selecting the landscape option, and also the size of the paper will be legal so that we can maximize the space to display our information. Now, to display the data in the report that belongs to the CPU utilization, swap utilization, etc., we'll create a data table here by doing a drag and drop of this data table object here and place it below the title. And in this box, we are going to place the fields that we want to display in our report. So the first field will be the OEM target name, then the host name, CPU max PC, CPU average PC, swap max PC, swap average PC, and we can see that we don't have enough space there, so we'll have to adjust the width of the fields by a little. And also we want to change the column headers. We'll put simply a percentage symbol there instead of PC. You can simply double click on the text to be edited and make the changes, then press enter. Now we have enough space there. Let's drag and drop the other fields: IOPS max PC, IOPS average PC, tablespace max PC, and usage level. We are not going to use this field in this report directly. Instead, we are going to use it to change the color of this tablespace max PC, and that I'll explain later on. Then data FS max PC. Again, we have to do some editing here and reduce the width. You can see there is a total line which we don't want in our report. So we'll click on this box, and in these styles available, we'll select the one that doesn't have the total line. So the first option we selected, and the total line is gone. And then the ArcFRA file system max percentage utilization, that is the archive file system or fast recovery area uses percentage. Then the apply lag in seconds, and we are not going to use the transport lag in seconds because the apply lag in seconds is more important for us. Then the top DB wait event. And we'll adjust the column width accordingly, and we'll save it. And we have to provide a name for the layout here. Let's give it a name as layout 1. And now we are going to format these cells with different colors based on certain threshold values. And these threshold values that I am going to set here are not absolute. For your environment, you'll be able to customize it as per your requirement. For example, CPU max, swap max, and IOPS max, these columns are actually giving us if there is any spike for that particular area. The average columns are giving us an idea about how the server status is throughout the day. So in fact, these average columns are more important for us. As the average columns are more important for us, I'm going to set a slightly lower values in the thresholds for these average columns than the max columns. So let's start. I'm starting with the CPU max. Click on the column itself, and when it is selected, click on the highlight button here. And the CPU max will set a threshold as if the value is greater than or equal to 90, then it will be considered as a critical situation, and the color of the font will be represented with white color, and the background color of the cell will be red. Click OK, and then we have to add some more rules there by selecting this Manage Format button. And when this row is selected, click on this plus button, and when the CPU max percentage is greater than or equal to, say, 80, it is considered as a warning situation, and the background color will be yellow. The font color will be black by default. Click OK. One more rule: when the CPU max percentage is below 80%, it will be considered as normal, and it will be represented as green background for the cell. Click OK. Now, for the average column, which is actually more important for us, we'll set slightly lower values in the thresholds. So we'll click the highlight button. CPU average percentage is greater than or equal to 50, then it will be considered as a critical situation, and the color of the font will be white, and the background color of the cell will be red. Click OK and OK again. Then click on the Manage Formats to add some more rules there. Click on this plus button. When the CPU average percentage is greater than or equal to 40, then it will be considered as warning, and it will be represented with a yellow background color in the cell. And when it is less than 40, it will be considered as normal situation, and the background color of the cell will be green. Click OK. So here are the rules. When the value is greater than or equal to 50, it will be critical. When it is greater than or equal to 40, it's warning. When it is less than 40, it's normal. You can change these values as per your requirement. Similarly, I'll set different threshold values here. Say, for example, the swap max, the critical threshold will be 90, and the warning threshold will be 80, and the normal will be below 80. But for average, critical threshold will be 50, warning threshold will be 40, and the normal threshold will be below 40. For the max IOPS, the critical threshold will be 2000, the warning threshold will be 1500, and the normal threshold will be below 1500. For the IOPS average, critical threshold will be at 1500, warning threshold will be 1000, and normal threshold will be below 1000. For data file max percentage utilization, the critical threshold will be 90, warning threshold will be 80, and normal will be below 80. And for archive file system or FRF max utilization, the critical will be 75%, warning will be 50%, and below 50 it will be considered as normal. For the apply lag seconds, 60 seconds will be considered as critical, 30 seconds will be considered as warning, and below 30 it will be normal. For the top DB wait events, there will not be any colors to represent the critical or warning situation. Now once we set all the threshold values for these columns, the CPU, swap, and IOPS, they will look like this. Next, we are going to format the color for the table space max utilization. The tablespace max utilization column, for this the formatting rules will be a little different, because as if you remember that the threshold values of the tablespace utilization differs depending on their sizes. For bigger tablespaces, we used to set higher threshold values than the tablespaces which are smaller in size. So that's the reason our SQL statement is giving us another column called uses level, which is taking 3 different values based on the uses level of the tablespace. For example, the uses level column will have a value 0 when the user status is normal, and it will take a value 1 when the user's status is warning, and it will take a value as 2 if it is critical. So to determine what color will be taken by the cells, we will use the uses level field value, and we will not set any other thresholds. So let's start. Click on this column called tablespace max percentage. Click on the highlight. Now instead of the tablespace max percentage utilization, we will use the uses level column here, and if it is equal to 0, it will be considered as normal and will be represented with a green color in the cell. Click OK. Click on the manage formats. Add a new rule. When the uses level equal to 1, it will be considered as warning and the background color of the cell will be yellow. Add one more rule. When the uses level is 2, it will be considered as critical and the font color will be again white and the background color will be red. Click OK, and now we can see that the last row that represents our standby database has no values there, because for standby databases we don't collect any statistics for the tablespace utilization. So that's the reason it is blank here. Now the data file system max utilization, again we will set some values. Now our formatting part is done. We'll save it and click on the done button. Now the main part of designing the report is completed and it is saved. Now if we go and click the catalog menu, we'll be able to see that our report is there with the name DB Environment Health Report. You can access this report for editing or displaying or distributing. For any of this purpose, you can go to this catalog menu and go to the folder where your report was saved, and you can do the required activity there. And similarly, you can also modify the data model by going to the catalog menu first and then go to the folder where that data model was saved and do your required activities. Now to look into this report, there are two ways. You can either click on this open button and that will show you the report in the screen, and the data will be dynamically refreshed using the query that we set in our data model. Now if you see that it is showing that sometime during the day there was a spike in CPU utilization for this particular server, and we can see that there's a 100% utilization, and also for this server we can see there's a 99.3% utilization, and in the average column, we don't see any critical or warning situation. Similarly, the other columns also giving us useful information about how our database environment is working. Now this report is being displayed by default in an HTML format. If you want, you can change the format to a PDF or a RTF or an Excel document by selecting different options which are visible under this View Report menu. Now this is one way of looking into the report, but the most useful way is to distribute this report through emails to the people who are interested to look into it, or the intended recipients in your organization. To do that, we have to schedule this report. You need to make sure that the SMTP server has been configured with the BIP reports, and I assume that if you're using OEM in your organization, the SMTP server has been already configured. If you have not configured the SMTP server and the port etc. for BIP report, please watch my other video where I have demonstrated how to configure it, and the link to that video is given in the description of this video below. So I'll not spend time in explaining how you need to configure the SMTP server, port, and other notification methods, etc. Now I'll go to the catalog menu again, and I will schedule this report so it runs by a job on a specific time and distribute to the intended recipients as email. To do that, click on this schedule button, and under the schedule, click on the output. You don't have to select the save data for republishing, because every time this report will run, the purpose is to get the latest information. And you can select this make output public, or you can keep it unselected. This is fine. Now name by default, it will be output. You can change this name to something like DB ENV Health Report. Layout will be by default the layout 1, and if we created multiple layouts of the report earlier, we'll be able to select which layout will be actually used by this particular scheduling job. For us, there is only one layout available, so it is showing only one option there. And the format by default, it is HTML. You can select different formats there. Now if you select a PDF format, the report will be distributed as a PDF, and the name of that PDF will be this name that you have specified there, DB Environment Health Report.pdf, something like that. Now we are not using the PDF option. Instead, we want to display the report in the body of the email itself. So we are selecting the HTML format there. Now under the destinations, make sure that the email is selected, and this list will be populated based on what distribution methods you have configured. It may be an email, or it may be a fax, or it may be something else that you have configured in the distribution methods. Now add destination. If we click this button, it will give us the option to specify the email address. Say I'm selecting my email address there, and the subject line you can specify as same as DB Environment Health Report, and you don't have to specify any message there, because in the body of the email our report will be in the HTML format, and we don't want anything else to be displayed there. Now next thing, click on this schedule button. You have the option to run this report once, or you can run it hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, annually, etc. in different frequencies. Say I'm running it once, and I'm selecting the option run now, means it's going to run the report and distribute to the email distribution list as soon as we submit the job. So I have selected once as frequency and run now option there. The notification tab, I am not selecting anything. It is used to notify whether the report has been successfully completed, it failed or skipped, or whatever status it is. for the job. And also I am not selecting anything for the diagnostics. It will give us some information if the job actually fails. Now once everything is set as per the requirement, all you need to do is to click on the submit button, and it will ask for a name of the job that I'm going to give the same as the name of the report, say DB Environment Health Report job, and I will submit it, and I get a confirmation that the job DB Environment Health Report job successfully submitted. Click OK, and if everything is correct, I'll be able to receive one email in the email ID specified with the report in HTML format. Now, if your email server configuration is properly done in the BI Publisher reports, you should be able to receive a report like this that I'm displaying. This is a regular report that I am receiving for some of the critical databases, and I hope that a report like this will be useful for you also. So viewers, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Please hit the like button if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss an episode in this series for the Oracle DBAs or similar educational videos that I am uploading every week.